Every day, our minds are flooded with thousands of thoughts, but there is often one thought that quietly dominates our behavior, decisions, and emotions. This single thought can be positive, inspiring, and motivating, or it can be negative, destructive, and controlling. When left unchecked, it can shape the way we perceive ourselves, influence the choices we make, and even determine the trajectory of our lives. Understanding the power of a single thought and learning to manage it is essential if you want to regain control over your mind, actions, and ultimately your destiny. A thought, no matter how small, has immense influence. It begins in the mind as a fleeting idea, but can quickly expand into beliefs, habits, and patterns of behavior. If a thought is negative, for example, I am not capable or I will never succeed, it will color every decision and action that follows. You might avoid opportunities, doubt your abilities, or procrastinate, all because of the silent control of that one thought. Over time, repeated reinforcement transforms this thought into a belief system, silently dictating your life without your conscious awareness. The mind's focus magnifies reality. Humans tend to notice, remember, and act upon what they focus on. When a single thought dominates, it becomes a filter through which we perceive everything. A negative thought can make challenges seem insurmountable, opportunities seem risky, and relationships seem distant. Conversely, a positive, faith-driven thought can inspire courage, persistence, and creativity. Islam teaches that thoughts are powerful precursors to action, and believers are encouraged to monitor and purify their intentions, because actions are judged according to intentions, niyyah. A destructive thought left unchecked can therefore have long-term spiritual, emotional, and practical consequences. The power of a single thought is evident in the way it shapes behavior. Consider someone who frequently thinks, I am not worthy of success. This thought may lead them to hesitate when opportunities arise, doubt their decisions, or avoid taking risks altogether. Gradually, this thought becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The fear of failure prevents action, and inaction reinforces the belief of inadequacy. The mind creates a narrative that feels real, even if it is based on no true evidence, demonstrating just how influential a single thought can be in shaping one's life. Emotions are tied to thoughts, and the emotional consequences of a dominant thought can be profound. Persistent negative thoughts often lead to anxiety, depression, and stress. They cloud judgment, reduce motivation, and drain energy. On the other hand, faith-driven or positive thoughts foster hope, resilience, and determination. The Prophet Muhammad emphasized controlling the heart and mind, highlighting that guarding one's thoughts and intentions is essential for both spiritual and worldly success. The danger of a single controlling thought is that it often operates subconsciously. Many people are unaware of the thoughts that shape their daily decisions. The mind runs on autopilot, and repeated patterns of thinking quietly influence habits, choices, and even relationships. Without conscious awareness, one thought can dictate the trajectory of years, or even decades, without the individual realizing the source of their limitation or dissatisfaction. One reason thoughts gain such control is that the mind overestimates threats and underestimates opportunities. Negative thinking exaggerates potential risks while minimizing the potential benefits of action. For example, a thought like, if I try, I will fail, focuses attention on worst-case scenarios, making it seem more likely than it is. The mind begins to avoid challenges, opportunities, or growth because the thought convinces it that danger is imminent. Faith teaches believers that Allah is the best planner, and reliance on Him provides perspective. Outcomes are not solely in our control, but effort combined with trust yields reward. Thoughts also create patterns that influence long-term identity. If someone constantly thinks, I'm unlucky or I'm not smart enough, these thoughts gradually define their self-image. The brain internalizes repeated messages, and actions begin to reflect these beliefs. The longer a thought is reinforced, the stronger its grip. This is why controlling dominant thoughts is critical. One thought left unchecked can quietly shape personality, behavior, and life outcomes. Spiritual practices provide tools to manage and redirect thoughts. Prayer, salah, remembrance of Allah, dhikr, and dua, supplication, help purify the mind and align thoughts with faith, purpose, and resilience. Islam emphasizes mindfulness of the heart and mind, recognizing that thoughts precede actions and intentions. Guarding one's inner dialogue is as important as external behavior. By actively directing thoughts toward faith, positivity, and purpose, a person reduces the influence of destructive ideas and strengthens mental and spiritual discipline. Another factor is environmental and social influence. The people you interact with, the media you consume, and the situations you inhabit all influence the thoughts that dominate your mind. Exposure to negativity, criticism, or unhealthy patterns can amplify destructive thoughts, while uplifting environments reinforce positive thinking. Being mindful of your surroundings and seeking supportive, faith-aligned companions strengthens the ability to control the dominant thoughts that shape your life. The power of a single thought is also evident in decision-making. Every choice is preceded by a thought whether to act, speak, or refrain. A controlling negative thought can lead to hesitation, avoidance, or poor decisions. Conversely, a constructive thought inspires action, courage, and perseverance. Recognizing the pivotal role of thought in shaping behavior highlights the importance of mental discipline. Islam teaches that controlling the inner self and aligning thoughts with righteous intentions is a form of worship. Finally, action reinforces thought patterns. The thoughts you act upon repeatedly become stronger, while thoughts you ignore or challenge weaken over time. Taking intentional steps to replace destructive thoughts with empowering, faith-driven ones transforms behavior, habits, and ultimately life outcomes. This requires self-awareness, reflection, and discipline, but the rewards are profound. Freedom from mental traps, clarity of purpose, and the ability to live intentionally. A single thought can either imprison you or liberate you. When destructive, it controls your emotions, decisions, and life trajectory. When constructive, it inspires courage, faith, and growth. Recognizing the power of thoughts, cultivating awareness, and actively aligning them with purpose and faith allows you to reclaim control of your life. Your destiny is not determined by random thoughts, but by the ones you allow to take root and guide your actions. Every decision you make in life is influenced by the thoughts running through your mind. When negative thinking dominates, it subtly guides choices, often leading to hesitation, self-sabotage, and missed opportunities. Even when you intellectually understand what is right or beneficial, a persistent negative thought can override logic and intuition, shaping your decisions in ways that keep you stuck, frustrated, and far from your potential. Negative thinking doesn't just affect emotions, it dictates the trajectory of your life. Negative thoughts often take the form of self-doubt and fear. Thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," "I'll never succeed," or "I can't handle this," create an internal narrative of inadequacy. When these thoughts dominate, every decision is influenced by fear rather than purpose or faith. You may avoid taking risks, delay pursuing goals, or refuse opportunities that could lead to growth. Fear-driven thinking leads to conservative choices that prioritize comfort over progress. Over time, this creates a life constrained by hesitation and what-ifs. Another way negative thinking shapes decisions is through exaggerated perceptions of risk. The mind tends to magnify potential dangers and minimize potential rewards. For example, a thought like, "If I speak up, people will criticize me," can prevent you from asserting yourself, taking leadership, or advocating for what is right. The consequence is missed growth, lost influence, and diminished confidence. Islam teaches believers to rely on Allah while taking action, recognizing that calculated effort paired with trust in God yields results. And rely upon Allah, and sufficient is Allah as disposer of affairs. Surah Al-Ahzab 33:3. When negative thoughts dominate, decision-making becomes reactive rather than proactive. Instead of acting with intention, you react to fear, doubt, and pessimism. Reactive decisions are often defensive, aimed at avoiding failure or criticism, rather than building towards success. This creates a cycle of stagnation where negative thinking perpetuates conservative, uninspired, and often self-limiting choices. Overthinking is another consequence of negative thought patterns. Negative thinking encourages you to replay worst-case scenarios, imagine potential failures, and question every option endlessly. This mental loop delays decision-making, saps energy, and reduces confidence. Opportunities pass by because the mind is trapped in analysis paralysis. Taking small, deliberate steps while trusting in Allah helps break this cycle, allowing action despite uncertainty. Negative thinking also distorts priorities. Thoughts focused on fear, inadequacy, or failure cause attention to shift toward avoiding loss rather than pursuing growth. For example, you may focus on what could go wrong instead of what could go right, leading to decisions that are risk-averse and limiting. This misalignment prevents strategic planning, goal setting, and long-term vision. In contrast, positive, faith-driven thinking helps prioritize what truly matters, aligning actions with purpose, values, and long-term success. Relationships and social interactions are also affected. Negative thinking can make you distrust others, assume the worst, or avoid connection due to fear of rejection. Decisions about communication, collaboration, and intimacy become filtered through pessimism, limiting your influence, support network, and personal growth. Conversely, replacing negative assumptions with faith and positive thinking encourages confident interaction, authentic relationships, and mutually beneficial outcomes. Negative thoughts often create self-fulfilling prophecies. If you constantly think, "I'll fail," your decisions will reflect avoidance, hesitation, and low effort, increasing the likelihood of failure. The very thought you fear becomes the reality because it shaped your actions and mindset. Islam encourages believers to trust in Allah while taking intentional action, reinforcing that effort paired with faith produces real results. The power of belief in shaping outcomes cannot be underestimated. Thoughts act as the blueprint for the life you construct. Financial and professional decisions are also influenced. Negative thinking can prevent career advancement, entrepreneurship, or personal investment. Beliefs like, I'm not capable of leading a team, or I'll never start a business successfully, may stop you from pursuing opportunities that could yield growth, wealth, and fulfillment. Over time, conservative choices rooted in fear limit potential earnings, professional influence, and personal development. Those who embrace faith-driven courage make bold yet informed decisions, unlocking doors that fear-based thinking would keep closed. Health and lifestyle choices are impacted as well. Negative thoughts can lead to avoidance of challenges, procrastination, or self-sabotage in areas like fitness, nutrition, and mental well-being. The thought, I'm too tired to start, or I'll never get in shape, can become excuses that prevent progress. When thoughts control behavior, the results reflect limitation, not potential. Small, intentional actions that counter negative thinking gradually reshape habits, choices, and outcomes. Decision-making improves when thoughts are aligned with purpose and faith. Islam teaches that intentional action combined with reliance on Allah transforms effort into meaningful outcomes. Controlling thoughts, replacing pessimism with faith-driven optimism, and focusing on what is beneficial allows for decisions that are courageous, wise, and growth-oriented. Mental discipline strengthens your ability to discern between real risks and imagined fears, enabling strategic choices that move you forward. Finally, the cumulative effect of negative thinking is lifelong limitation. One thought may seem small at first, but repeated over time, it dictates patterns, behaviors, and outcomes. Careers, relationships, spiritual development, and personal fulfillment are all shaped by the mental framework you operate within. Controlling and redirecting thoughts is essential to making decisions that reflect potential, faith, and purpose, rather than fear and doubt. By becoming aware of negative thinking, confronting it, and intentionally replacing it with constructive, faith-aligned thoughts, you regain control over your decisions. Life becomes an expression of purpose, growth, and courage rather than a reaction to fear. Every choice becomes an opportunity to align actions with values, develop potential, and fulfill the path Allah has designed. Our minds are powerful, but they are also vulnerable to patterns of thinking that quietly control us. Mental traps are these patterns: repetitive thoughts, limiting beliefs, and distorted perceptions that restrict our potential, hinder growth, and create unnecessary suffering. Often we don't even realize we are caught in them. They feel normal because they have been reinforced over time, but their influence is profound, subtly shaping decisions, actions, and even our sense of self. Breaking free from these mental traps is essential if you want to take control of your life, align with your purpose, and live in a way that reflects faith, courage, and clarity. One of the most common mental traps is overgeneralization. This happens when a single event or outcome is interpreted as a permanent truth. For example, failing one exam might lead to the thought, I'm always going to fail. Or a failed project might become, I'm not capable of success. Overgeneralization transforms temporary setbacks into lifelong limitations. Islam teaches believers to trust in Allah's wisdom, recognizing that challenges are opportunities for learning rather than evidence of permanent inadequacy. Do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. Surah Az-Zumar 39-53. Another mental trap is catastrophizing, where the mind imagines the worst possible outcome and exaggerates its likelihood or impact. Thoughts like, if I speak up, everyone will hate me, or if I try this, I will completely fail, make small risks seem dangerous, convincing you to avoid action. Catastrophizing fuels fear, stagnation, and indecision, preventing growth and reinforcing comfort zones. Understanding that fear-driven assumptions are often exaggerations is the first step in overcoming this trap. All-or-nothing thinking is another subtle but destructive trap. This is the tendency to see situations in extremes: success or failure, perfect or worthless, good or bad. Life rarely fits into rigid categories, and when we adopt all-or-nothing thinking, we misinterpret challenges and setbacks as absolute judgments on our worth. Islam encourages believers to embrace balance, patience, and measured effort, reminding us that progress is gradual and consistent striving carries reward. A trap closely related to these is confirmation bias, the habit of noticing only information that supports your negative beliefs while ignoring evidence to the contrary. For example, if you believe, I am unlucky, you focus on setbacks and ignore successes, reinforcing a limiting mindset. This bias keeps mental traps alive, making it feel as though the world confirms your fears. Recognizing and challenging these biases is critical for freeing the mind and making decisions rooted in truth, not distorted perception. Rumination is another powerful trap. It involves continuously replaying past mistakes, failures, or painful experiences. Rumination doesn't solve problems. It reinforces negative thought patterns and emotional distress. Someone who ruminates may avoid new challenges, believing they are doomed to repeat past failures. Islam emphasizes the importance of reflection and learning from the past, but warns against dwelling excessively, encouraging believers to focus on action, growth, and reliance on Allah. Self-sabotaging thoughts are also mental traps. These thoughts convince you that effort is futile, that risks are too dangerous, or that you don't deserve success. I'll never be able to do this, or why bother trying, are examples. Such thoughts create self-fulfilling cycles. Avoidance, inaction, and underperformance reinforce the belief, trapping potential in a loop of limitation. The key is to recognize these thoughts as temporary intrusions, not permanent truths, and to actively replace them with faith-driven, purposeful thinking. Social comparison is another trap that undermines confidence and clarity. Constantly measuring yourself against others fuels feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, or fear. Thoughts like, "They're doing better than me, so I'll never succeed," distort reality and prevent action. Islam teaches believers that everyone has their unique path, gifts, and timing, and comparing yourself to others distracts from focusing on your own growth, effort, and relationship with Allah. Breaking free requires self-awareness and monitoring of thoughts. The first step is recognizing when your mind is caught in a trap. Journaling, reflection, and mindfulness can help identify recurring negative patterns. Once you are aware of the trap, you can actively challenge it. Ask it, is this thought based on evidence or is it an assumption? Am I seeing the whole picture or am I focusing on the negative? Challenging distorted thoughts weakens the trap's control and opens space for constructive thinking. Replacing destructive thoughts with empowering alternatives is crucial. For every limiting belief, introduce a thought rooted in faith, purpose, and reality. For example, replace "I'll never succeed" with "I will try sincerely and trust Allah to guide me." This not only changes your mindset but also influences decisions and behavior. Islam emphasizes intention, niyyah, and effort, reminding believers that sincere action, even in small steps, carries immense value. Gradual exposure to discomfort helps dismantle mental traps. Many traps persist because the mind avoids anything unfamiliar, risky, or challenging. By intentionally facing small challenges, you train the mind to tolerate uncertainty, build confidence, and develop resilience. Each step strengthens the belief that challenges can be overcome, weakening the influence of limiting thoughts. Spiritual practices reinforce mental freedom. Prayer, salah, remembrance of Allah, dhikr, and supplication, dua, provide perspective, inner calm, and guidance. They remind the mind that control ultimately rests with Allah, and that effort combined with reliance on Him transforms fear, doubt, and limitation into growth, courage, and clarity. Mental traps lose power when thoughts are aligned with faith and purpose. Finally, breaking free is an ongoing process. Mental traps are deeply ingrained and will occasionally resurface, especially under stress. The key is consistent vigilance, reflection, and deliberate action. Surround yourself with supportive companions, seek knowledge, and align thoughts with faith. Over time, you gain mastery over the mind, transforming destructive patterns into stepping stones toward growth, confidence, and meaningful living. Mental traps may silently control your life, but with awareness, action, and faith, you can break free. Recognizing distortions, challenging assumptions, embracing discomfort, and aligning thoughts with purpose allows you to reclaim control. Your mind becomes a tool for growth, your decisions reflect potential, and your life becomes a reflection of courage, faith, and intentional living. The mind is powerful, and the thoughts you dwell on shape your reality, emotions, and decisions. When negative or destructive thoughts dominate, they silently control your life, creating fear, doubt, and limitation. But the good news is that these thoughts can be replaced with constructive, faith-driven thinking that aligns with purpose, strengthens resolve, and opens the door to growth and fulfillment. Replacing destructive thoughts is not just a mental exercise. It is a transformative process that changes how you perceive yourself, your challenges, and the world around you. The first step is recognizing destructive thoughts. Many of these thoughts operate on autopilot, repeating themselves without conscious awareness. They may manifest as self-criticism, fear of failure, hopelessness, or pessimism. Examples include, "I'm not capable," "I'll never succeed," or "nothing ever goes right for me." These thoughts may feel real and justified, but they are patterns shaped by past experiences, societal influence, or unchecked assumptions. Awareness is the key. You cannot change what you do not first notice. Journaling, reflection, or simply observing your thought patterns throughout the day can help you identify recurring destructive beliefs. Once recognized, the next step is challenging the thought. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it absolute? Or am I assuming the worst without evidence? This step shifts your mind from passive acceptance to active evaluation. For instance, if you think, "I'll never succeed in this project," examine past experiences where you overcame challenges. Consider small victories that contradict the thought. This process weakens the hold of destructive thinking and opens space for faith and logic to take control. Replacing thoughts with purpose-driven alternatives is essential. Every destructive thought can be countered with a thought rooted in faith, hope, and intentional action. For example, replace "I can't handle this" with "I will do my best and trust Allah to guide me." Replace "I'm not worthy" with "I am striving sincerely and Allah rewards effort." This does not mean ignoring reality or challenges. It means reframing the mind to respond constructively rather than reactively. Islam emphasizes intention, niyyah, reminding believers that effort combined with faith is always meaningful. Focus on values and purpose to guide thought replacement. When destructive thoughts arise, reconnect with your larger goals and spiritual objectives. Ask, does this thought align with my purpose? Does it reflect the values I want to embody? Thoughts that are misaligned with purpose often bring doubt and stagnation. Aligning thoughts with values reinforces meaningful action and reduces the influence of fear, comparison, and negativity. Spiritual practices strengthen thought transformation. Regular prayer, salah, remembrance of Allah, dhikr, and sincere supplication, dua, provide perspective, clarity, and calm. They remind the mind that ultimate control lies with Allah, and that our responsibility is effort and sincerity. A thought like "I am alone in this struggle" can be countered with faith. Allah is with me, guiding my steps, and my effort is seen. Spiritual connection reinforces resilience, patience, and confidence, making it easier to replace negativity with constructive thinking. Gratitude and reflection are powerful tools. Focusing on blessings, accomplishments, and lessons learned trains the mind to recognize positivity and divine guidance in daily life. A destructive thought like "nothing ever works out for me" loses power when you reflect on past successes, moments of growth, or help from Allah. Gratitude shifts the mental lens from scarcity to abundance, from fear to hope. Action reinforces thought transformation. Constructive thoughts must be accompanied by purposeful action. When you replace a destructive thought with a faith-driven one, act upon it. For instance, the thought "I'll never succeed" can be replaced with "I will do my best and trust Allah," but this requires taking steps toward your goal. Action validates the new thought, strengthens confidence, and creates momentum. Repeated success, even in small steps, reshapes beliefs and reduces the grip of negativity over time. Environment and companionship matter. Surround yourself with people who inspire, support, and encourage faith-driven, positive thinking. Avoid constant exposure to negativity, gossip, or criticism that reinforces destructive thoughts. Islam emphasizes the importance of righteous companions as they influence beliefs, actions, and mindset. Constructive environments provide feedback, encouragement, and accountability, making it easier to replace harmful patterns of thought. Persistence and patience are necessary. Destructive thoughts are often deeply ingrained and will resurface, especially under stress or pressure. Replacing them is a gradual process that requires consistency, self-compassion, and reliance on Allah. When negativity returns, consciously counter it with faith-driven, purposeful alternatives, reflecting on intention, values, and past growth. Over time, constructive thinking becomes habitual, and mental control is restored. Finally, aligning thoughts with long-term vision is transformative. Destructive thoughts often focus on immediate discomfort, fear, or limitation. Purpose-driven, faith-aligned thinking considers the bigger picture: your growth, spiritual development, and contribution to the world. Each thought is an opportunity to act with courage, make decisions aligned with values, and trust in Allah's wisdom. Over time, replacing destructive thoughts with purposeful, faith-centered thinking reshapes behavior, strengthens resilience, and transforms life from reactive to intentional. Replacing destructive thoughts with purpose and faith is not a one-time task. It is a lifelong discipline. Awareness, reflection, spiritual practice, intentional action, and supportive environments collectively strengthen the mind, liberate the soul, and guide life toward growth, confidence, and fulfillment. The thoughts you nurture today determine the reality you experience tomorrow.